All right, so I am Diane DeFreitas. I am tasked, sorry, admitting, I am tasked with trying to lead the credit for prior learning implementation, build it out, build it up. I also just took back curriculum committee chair 2 weeks ago. A little shuffling around of people, so I'm back in that position. So there's a lot of crossover. So, has anyone seen one of my presentations before on this? You can I can't see you, so you can unmute. No? Okay, good.
No.
I've updated a little bit. This is a big project. So we're doing what we can, kind of starting with the easiest stuff first, the low-hanging fruit, and trying to build out. So what is credit for prior learning? It's college credit awarded for validated college level skills and knowledge gained outside of a college classroom. Ways that students can gain this knowledge and skills could be military training, industry training, state, federal government training, volunteer civic activities, and those apprenticeships or internships, work-based learning. It is not credit, for students, taking a class somewhere else. It's not for skills already assessed and awarded through formal education. We do those in a different way. We can use transcripts, course substitutions, things like that. This is for outside of a classroom kind of learning, skills and knowledge that students could bring to us, and possibly those knowledge and skills are equivalent to one of our classes, and we can give them credit for it. So how do we assess this credit for prior learning? Now, we already do 2.5 of these things of the 5 areas. We're just kind of fine tuning them and building them out. External exams, the AP exams, the IB exams, CLEP exams that students can get. Most of that's in high school. We already have a process in place for that credit. Credit by exam, that's exams administered internally at the school by faculty. A lot of you may be aware that I polled every single department chair last spring to update our credit by exam list, which courses faculty will allow a student to take a credit by exam. And then industry certifications. This is a new part of this credit for prior learning. Military transcripts. We do a little of this, but we need to do some more credit that veterans can get for work they've done or classes they've taken through the military. And then the learning portfolio is also very new that I'll talk about here. Oops, sorry, can't read my toolbars in the way. My note down there, it says any assessment must evaluate student knowledge and proficiency of all course content and objectives. So the standards and rigor of our courses are not to be lessened or diminished. So not all courses are going to be suitable for a credit for prior learning opportunity, but we have many that are, and more that we can add. So why should we offer it? So there's a lot of research showing that students are roughly twice as likely to get a college degree, complete the degree. They can complete these degrees 1 to 2 semesters faster, which saves them time and money. Achievement gaps are reduced and equity is increased. And most Californians that could benefit from credit for prior learning are people of color. Those sources down there, these link to some research paper and I think a white paper. Any questions so far? Okay, moving on. What's our? This is taken from the ASCCC, one of these documents. California community colleges are poised to create an ecosystem to achieve equitable outcomes for minoritized students and close the gaps in educational attainments. So you can read that paragraph. I don't think I have to read it for you. I just highlighted kind of the main point there. Students' diversity is not only reflected in their gender, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, but also in the knowledge and skills they bring from their prior learning experiences in business, arts, applied sciences, military, and other pursuits. More on why we should offer it. Several community college, California community colleges have a significantly advanced credit for prior learning as an equity initiative. And the one thread that's common is all meaningful involvement of faculty in student-centered practices. So Palomar College in San Diego County was the pilot for this program, because this is, you'll see that there's law here, there's a state initiative that we have to be doing this, and they were the pilot, and so they really built out a nice program, and we're all using their toolkit and talking with them to see how best practices, because they really put a lot of effort into their credit for prior learning. Faculty have helped uphold quality and rigor in assessments, ensuring that credit is granted for skills and knowledge and not experience. So expanding this does rely on faculty commitment. This is definitely faculty-led endeavor through the 10+1 in the Senate. This is from another pamphlet from the State Academic Senate. So the vision for success comes from the State Chancellor's Office. And these are the goals that they've laid out for the whole community college system: increase credential attainment by 20%, increase transfer by 35% to the UC and CSU, decrease unit obtainment for a degree, increase employment for CTE students, reduce and erase equity gaps, reduce regional gaps. And those are the core commitments. So credit for prior learning is one of these tools we can use to meet some of these commitments. Sorry, I have a dog in here. I might need to let out. Sorry. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. Okay, moving on. So why must we offer it? Previous slides are why should we offer it? Why must we offer it? So there's some legislation in 2018. SB 1071 required the colleges to implement a consistent policy to award credit for the veteran and military students using their transcripts. And then there was AB 1786, requires an initiative to expand the use of course credit at the California community colleges for students with validated college level skills and knowledge gained outside the classroom. Then they amended Title V, 2020. There's a link there to the actual text, but it basically adds those 5 areas that I showed you: external exams, credit by exam, industry certs, military transcripts, and learning portfolios. And then we were all required, each community college or district was required to update their administrative policies and submit a process by December 2020. We did that, surprisingly, all on Zoom back then, through our ECPC process and curriculum, and we updated the AR 4235. So now, every college in the state is trying to figure out how to build this out. And, and we're a very large college, as you know, with lots of courses and opportunities. So this is kind of a large lift for us. The CSU in October 2021 came out with their policy basically that says they will take all credit for prior learning. What's most important for us is they will honor whatever we give credit for on a student as credit for prior learning. They will honor that as the student transfers. The UC, they not so much. I'm not sure yet if we've had information on exactly what the UC system will take in credit for prior learning. So our progress to date here, I created a work group in spring 2021 to start looking at this. We still have this work group. includes representation from A&R, veterans, some CTE, mainly fire tech at this point. We can definitely add into that. Articulation, transfer center. And then Julie Lines. Julie, are you here? I think Julie's here. She joined us in that fall to help us define and create this process. Kind of been calling her the CPL counselor. And she and I kind of work closely together, and then we'll bring in the work group for more advice. And this year I was to focus solely on CPL. That was going to be what I was going to do. But then again, I had to go back into curriculum chair. So we're going to do what we can. Julie and I have given lots of presentations over the last couple of years on Zoom. We have many, many resources are available through the Chancellor's Office, Palomar College. I go to Curriculum Institute every summer, webinars. So we've got a lot of resources to help us figure out how not to reinvent the wheel and try to maximize this. So I updated the credit by exam list for the colleges in spring 2022. Honestly, not all department chairs got back to me after several attempts. So I had to just finish the process and just say, then that's a no. They're not going to offer any credit by exam. So we can always add more, especially as you come through curriculum cycle, because this is going to be at least noted on the course outliner record, what kind of CPL you might offer for a class. So we can always add things or take away things as we go here. But I was trying to update, what courses will allow a student to pass by taking this credit by exam. And I did quite a few breakouts or sessions trying to explain what that means, what credit by exam is and is not. We're going to need to begin. I'm trying to dive deeper into the military joint service transcripts. So we'll be working with the Veterans Center closer to try to figure out how we can offer more than just, I think right now we give like PE credit for basic training. It's in our catalog. We give a couple things in the health department for that, but there's a lot more we can do with the joint service transcripts, because I'm not real familiar with the whole military process, the veterans process, but I know there's schools, if they go to a language school, let's say, then there's a lot of credits there we could probably apply to some foreign languages and things. And then we are beginning to envision a centralized process, how we're going to go from student interest in credit for prior learning to credit for credit for prior learning. Each of those 5 areas have a different process. And so the AP-IB CLEP thing has already got a process that's been in place for a while. I just need to figure out what it is exactly and who's in charge of what. The credit by exam has had a process. Again, I'm trying to break that down to figure out who does what and then try to centralize that. Military transcripts is going to have a process. So the 5 areas are going to have a kind of a different place where the paperwork goes. But I'm trying to make it like Palomar does, where we have one gatekeeper. Is what I'm trying to get us to do. So this is like my idea of like Julie Lines, if she wants to continue as a credit for prior learning counselor, is that student fills out a form at A&R or maybe in counseling that says they want to apply for such and such credit for prior learning. And then that form goes to one person, and probably a counselor. And then they can tell the student, this is what we have available. This course will allow you to do this or will not allow you to do this, and kind of route the student and the paperwork to the appropriate faculty or department. So we already have, like I said, some credit for prior learning here. The AP, IB, and CLEP exams. By law, we have to give general education credit for those scores, if it's a passing score on those. So they get credit for a general education area. We have some course-to-course credit. I did that work several years ago where I asked every single faculty out there who has an AP, IB, or CLEP attached to their discipline, will you take it as a course-to-course? Can they substitute the actual course with that exam? We have some, and it's all in the catalog. The college catalog has all the AP, IB, CLEP. Well, maybe, I don't remember. Maybe AP is built out the most. That's the most familiar to everybody. showing what GE area they get credit, and then we have an area that shows course-to-course credit for those. Credit by exam, like I said, the system has been in place but not updated in many years. I updated it in spring 2022, best I could for now. And then the military joint service transcripts. So we've given some credit, mainly in the PE and health credit. So working to expand those offerings. And then our new opportunities under this legislation is the industry certifications and the learning portfolios. Any questions? I'm going too fast? Good. Okay, industry certifications. This applies mainly to CTE programs, probably solely, I would think. Students can get credit for a class if faculty determine an industry certificate is proof of prior learning and achievement of the course objectives of a class. Some disciplines, such as fire tech and computer information tech, have many well-known certificates that can be applied for course credit. I need participation from CTE faculty this next year in identifying other opportunities that are available in their unique disciplines. So we need to get a database together of known certificates that faculty have said, yes, this is, if the student has this certificate, they have met all the objectives of this class, so they can have credit. So if we can build out a database of the ones we know, and then there's the question of, if the student comes with a certificate an industry cert we've never seen, and wants to see if they can have credit, I'm trying to get this process in place where the CPL counselor routes that industry cert to the appropriate faculty to evaluate. But I know we have some, I just don't know because I'm not a discipline expert in these areas. There are some certificates already out there that you all in your areas might know about. Like here's an example of a crosswalk for CIT. I don't think those are our classes. This might be Palomar's example. But that the industry cert matches that class. Does that make sense? So the learning portfolio is a package of materials students develop to highlight knowledge gained from life experiences. It's packaged in a way to demonstrate how the knowledge is comparable to a specific course, contents align with the learning outcomes of the course. So discipline faculty will create a rubric to be able to evaluate student portfolios against their course objectives. And I think this is a pass, no pass grade only. And I still need to clarify which of these things we can offer a letter grade and which is pass, no pass. Learning portfolios, I know it's going to be pass, no pass. The credit by exam, if you give the student an exam, whatever grade they get on the exam, because this is like a really long exam that tests everything in the class, right? Whatever grade they get on it is the grade in the course. So if they get a D, they get a D in the course. A, they get an A in the course. Locally, we can have options that students could say, no thanks, I'm just not going to take that grade, I'll take the class. I need to round up the district because that's an AR issue. So this year I also need to get a district group together with all 4 colleges to see what we want to do as far as giving students options of pass, no pass, letter grades, or saying, oh, I failed the test, forget it, I don't want the grade, which seems fair probably, they can do that. Now I'm taking the class. I don't know, I need to look more into that and see what we can do locally. So that note down there, this opportunity is the most new and complex. So I am saving it for last, the learning portfolio. So I'm trying to get the industry certification database built and set and some more of the military. And then I'll try to tackle the learning portfolio. But you're free to start thinking about, this isn't going to apply to very many classes, I don't think. But thinking about if one of your courses student could present a portfolio. We think of portfolio as, they're presenting their drawings or artwork, and but it's more than that. I mean, it obviously can work in art, but it's more than that. But like I said, it's not going to apply to very many classes. And definitely, I think this again is going to be a bit more CTE leaning than, I mean, I teach economics. There's no learning portfolio a student can present me that's going to, my stuff is more credit by exam or AP, IB CLEP kind of things. So questions on that? My vision for a successful and efficient credit for prior learning process here. So disciplined faculty are aware of and supportive of these opportunities, which is why we've been doing a lot of presentations. Honestly, I got a lot of pushback on credit by exam from a lot of faculty. So I tried to do some presentations explaining what it is, and so that's always an issue. We have new things, and it seems like a lot of work maybe for faculty. And so, I got more no's and yeses for credit by exam for sure on that. Disciplined faculty, where applicable, have created CPL opportunities for their appropriate courses. One central database holds all these opportunities. External exam information is credit by exam, or military industry certs and portfolio information. Students applies for credit for prior learning consideration via some interest form at A&R and probably counseling. And then the form is sent to this dedicated, calling it a CPL counselor, who routes the student and the paperwork to appropriate areas. For example, for credit by exam, like this week, I've been trying to figure out what the process is. And nobody really knows. It's spread out over like A&R and Office of Instruction and I don't know, business office. It's spread out, but nobody really knows how a student gets to point. Not one person knows. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to figure that out. But I don't think there's a process in place where the student meets with the faculty member before they decide they want to take this credit by exam. And that's what I think we need to put in there is if a student says, oh, I think I can pass, Econ 50 on my own. I want the CPL counselor to route that student to me, and we'll have a chat and make sure they really understand what they're talking, what they're getting into. So especially if we say the letter grade is the grade of the class, right? So I kind of want to, again, tighten up these processes so everybody knows, or at least one person, one centralized place knows how these are going to be awarded. And then we need a nice web page on our website with clear and detailed information. Palomar has a wonderful one. So I probably, when we get to that point, we'll be using them as a starting point. We already had to add some language into our course catalog because the AR was updated, and part of that process, they said we had to put it in the catalog, but also part of that legislation said we have to have on a website, there has to be dedicated information on credit for prior learning. So we need to do that. So here's our next steps based on that for this year and beyond, for sure. Expand the course credit opportunities from military joint service transcripts, create new course credit opportunities for industry certs. Again, our low-hanging fruit is fire technology and CIT. Peter in fire has already been, he's on the little work group, and so we've been starting with that because he knows certificates. They know over there what the certificate students could bring. So then I'd like to ask more of the CTE faculty to think about what they might have in their industries. There's some district things we need to tie up that we have not yet met as a district. So we need to ensure we've got the transcription ability for transcripts, plus some of these other little issues about how we credit and fees we charge students and things. Finalize and institutionalize this process that I'm envisioning. And then we'll work on learning portfolios and a process that we update this through the curriculum committee I already have on CurriculumNet these radio buttons as you're coming through curriculum in the future. I've said, go ahead, let's let faculty check what they have. If they know they have AB, AP, or IB, one of those externals, or they know they have CBE or industry research, go ahead, just check it on the COR, course outline of record, so we kind of have that attached. But updating these things in the future is going to need to probably be through the curriculum process. And then create that dedicated credit for prior learning page on the website. That's going to be down there at the end as well. Okay, so yeah, this is a substantial project, and I snarkily put, aren't they all? Because I've done several of these substantial projects, and it has to do with curriculum. And it must be faculty-led through oversight of the Academic Senate and Curriculum Committee. So I encourage you and your discipline peers to embrace the positives and if feasible, create an opportunity. Not all, like I said, not all disciplines are going to be able to do this anywhere. But like a lot of our academic ones, like mine and English and history and things like that, there's AP, there's external exams, and we can definitely offer internal credit by exam. The CTE programs definitely have more opportunity for maybe industry certifications and maybe learning portfolio ideas. So feel free to contact me, questions, information, ideas, desire to get more involved would be great, etc. Those are the end of my slides. We went through those fast. So let me take some questions or ideas, maybe. Look at the chat.
Diane, you
Yes.
mentioned, I'm a counselor here at Fresno City, and you know how the credit by exam, that's always something that I struggle with too, because it's not listed anywhere, right? You had mentioned that you got a current list. Is that something that we could view? Well, or are you still working on it?
I just sent it to the Office of Instruction. Yeah, well, that again, I don't know who tells the student what's available right now.
Well, if you look at the calendar, there's nothing, but I know just from being here for so long, I know that CIT 12 is one that was really common, which is the basic, computer class, right? I know they have done credit by exam.
Yeah.
But even back then, I had to call the office to kind of decide what the process was, because they had to be enrolled in the class, and then they have to like take it before a certain amount of weeks, right? And then if they pass, they get the credit. It was a very complicated, it shouldn't be, but it's kind of complicated process. Yeah. And now we got rid of the requirements for the computer literacy, right? But some students will need it, like business majors. Right. You know how? And
so that's what I'm trying to figure out is the process. Because I thought I was going through Office of Instruction, but they're saying, no, we don't run it. And I'm like, but they do run part of it. So I need to work on that first, is what the credit by exam process is. And then we're going to have to kind of continue that one until we get this other one in place. But let me see where I should share that list that I have now. Maybe Myrna also in A&R, but I need to figure that out. So if that would be helpful. Thank you. Okay, so James. Hi, I'm reading your chat here. That students must be given credit for their prior learning in terms of proper placement, but not actual college credits. Correct, that's something different, yeah? Yeah, that's just, we can't place them in an English or math class anymore, except transfer level. We're just assuming they can do transfer level math and English, yeah. So giving credit is awesome. I see. Got it. Okay, maximum limit. Okay, good questions. This came up at Curriculum Institute. I went to a couple breakouts on CPL, and the Palomar College people were there. Their philosophy is no. I think this is a local decision. So again, and for us, that means not just FCC district, because it's run by an AR. And I've worked with, I've done this for many years now, working with the district and making things change takes a long time and a lot of convincing. And then an AR has to be updated. So, but I got to start working on that. Because this question has come up. Palomar's view is, why would you limit it? Could they get I doubt a student could get a whole degree. They can't get all the general ed, right? But you're thinking of the major prep, could they get all the major courses done with just CPL? I don't think so. I don't. I mean, that's quite a few classes. It will not cause issues with transfers to the CSU. Okay, the CSU will take credit for prior learning. UC might be different, and private institutions are definitely going to be different. So we haven't had that discussion yet, and I can't remember what the AR says. I think the AR is silent on it, which means there is not a limit yet, if we're going to put a limit. The other question that's coming up is, should you charge students for the credit by exam or these other opportunities? And Palomar's view is, that's inequitable. You shouldn't charge them. We do charge. In our AR, we do charge students for a credit by exam. And the learning portfolio is going to be a similar process, because faculty get paid something to give a credit by exam. It's not much, but they get paid a stipend to give that exam. We're going to have to do the same thing for the learning portfolio, because a faculty member is going to need to evaluate a student's portfolio. So we need to pay them, create a section in the schedule for that so they can get paid for that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be right. I got dog issues with there. Let me get this dog out of here. Okay, so I was going through the chat. We'll figure out that maximum limit or not. What do you guys, that's a good question for you since you're here to help me think about limit on this or not. Feel free to unmute and just talk to me. Peter's here. Hello. Oh, did I have to unmute you, or you guys do it yourself? Okay. Any ideas on whether we should limit how many units they can get this way?
Well, I would think so. I think, like you said, you don't give a whole degree for, but Diane, you and I talked about it when you were back taking your poll of faculty, and you kind of said to me, yeah, it'd be kind of hard in your program to even do test out. But on the other hand, you got me thinking, because the electives, all of our electives, and Brian left me many, all of our electives, which are pretty much cover substantive areas where the core program covers processes and so on. They always require Paralegal 1 in order to take it. But for example, this fall, we have a class on probate that's elective. And we have I think she's legal secretary assistant, legal assistant coming in. You got to be careful, legal assistant, because the state calls that paralegal too, and that's not the same. But anyway, legal office assistant. She's been in a probate firm for many years. She wanted to know if she could take probate this fall, because our electives, we have so many, we only offer them like every other year. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I mean, you can take it while you're taking Paralegal 1. I mean, at least it's OREC. I said yes, but it's got me thinking. Maybe she should kick. I'm not going to, don't quote me out there.
Yeah.
So that she asked me, but maybe something like that credit could be offered for, say, an elective in a substantive area where they've been working for many,
We just need a way to assess it.
Right.
So that could be portfolio.
Yeah.
Something they can bring to you.
Especially the elective areas, because our elective areas, like I said, they're substantive: family law, probate, that kind of stuff. So criminal law. So, but I would say it should be limited. This sounds very much like back, and I'm always bringing up Fresno Pacific, but I was there for many years. Back in the 90s, when they started the first degree completion program, and they used to do a thing, because it was modeled after a college back in the Midwest that was very successful with it, and where they used to do a thing called life learning papers, which was basically you wrote a fairly substantial paper to get credit for something rather than take it. And I actually evaluated some of them, even though I wasn't teaching in it. And this sounds a lot like that. I mean, you
Yeah.
could do a certain number of things, but I would definitely wouldn't want to overdo it. I think it, I mean,
I
and
don't-
part of the thing is the student taking ProBet, in some ways she wants to take it. It's not that she wants credit for it. I think she really wants to take it just to sort of get perspective and, so.
I think it would be difficult for a student in any of our, we've had the same question with course substitutions. A student comes from another college with a lot of credits. Are they going to be able to get a degree without ever taking a class? Well, it happens inter-district, right? Between Clovis and Reedley and Fresno. And yeah, sometimes the answer could be if they're coming in with a lot of course credits. Although, no, let me scratch that, back up. We have a 12-unit residency requirement at City College. The whole district does. That's Title V. They have to take at least 12 units at the college. We can exclude that for credit prior learning. And I think it's already stated in the AR that these do not count towards the 12 units in residence. So that's what we should do. Is there shouldn't be maybe a limit on CPL per se, but they have to have 12 units in residence. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, one other limitation that was interesting back when they did do those papers, they call them something else now. There's a different process, but
Yeah.
One of the ones I'll always remember, there was an elective in the main campus undergrad called California Politics, History and Politics, and it was 4 units, and she was someone who had extensive experience working in the arena in California, wanted to get credit for that while she was in the DC program. And as an elective, so I was the one who evaluated it, and it was a 4-unit class. I gave her 3, and we were allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I gave her 3 because it was a lot of California history that she obviously covered, but she was missing some of the political elements that I think were necessary as to round out that course. And I didn't teach that course, but I was very familiar with that course, and I worked in the department. So, I limit. In other words, you can give less units than the courses.
Yeah, we won't be able to.
And things like that. I don't know. I mean, that was something that I found kind of interesting too.
Yeah. Brandon, well, in person, face to face, it could be online. They need to be with our faculty. You know what I mean? They need to take 12 units at our college, whether it's face to face or online. So I think if we keep that in there, I think we have to, then that will at least limit that. But again, I think it'd be very difficult. Maybe some of these certificates, and certificate of achievements, people come in with a lot, maybe, but not an AAAS. You got all that general education that there's no one, like I have offered credit by exam since I've been here, even though we don't know where all this information was. I've never, ever had a student do it. And I think my coworker, Aaron, had one student come talk to him thinking he could test out. And after talking to Aaron, said, okay, no, there's no way they could test out unless they've had AP. Well, then they have AP. Unless maybe they took an AP class and didn't take the exam. That happens. Another way credit by exam could work is a foreign student that maybe comes over and foreign transcripts are sometimes pretty difficult and timely and costly for us to get, for them to get translated. And so maybe they feel they can test out of a course because they come in with prior learning from another place. But I was trying to tell faculty when I did this spring, the chances of us using it is going to be rare. I think our foreign languages use it a lot. And I think there is some applied tech courses that use credit by exam often. But most of us probably aren't going to be able to see a student very rarely, if ever. So my point was, why not just say you offer it? But that's not how people saw it all the time. It's like, why would I offer it if I'm never going to, I have to create this big exam? And it doesn't work. For my class, I would create a huge 2-hour, 3-hour exam that covers all my other exams. But that doesn't work for all classes. I understand that.
excuse me, we do use that exam for levels 1 and 2 of every language, and quite often.
Right, yeah, I got you guys on the list for that. And so, yeah, you have experience. Maybe Joyce is when you talked about, okay, what's the process? Who contacts you with a student that's ready, that wants to take it? But
The students find out sometimes on their own or sometimes from the classroom teacher, because they know they're too advanced for the class.
yeah,
And so they go to get the form and then get the signatures, and it's a process.
yeah, well, I'm gonna try to make it
Yeah.
more transparent,
Oh,
simplify it, kind of centralize it so that,
yeah, because they have limits of 6. You have to do this within the first 6 weeks, then
Yeah.
they have to pay within the 9th, by the 9th week, and then it becomes a class.
yeah, well, we might still
They'll
need
put on
that.
a list like
We're still gonna need that timeline, because that's how faculty get paid. That's the
Right.
Office of Instruction part I know, is that they have to create a section
right.
just for you and that student, so you
Right.
get paid and they get a grade. That's how they get a grade, is
Right.
through a section. Okay,
But we have a faculty in charge of the Spanish testing. We have somebody in charge of the French testing.
Right.
I don't know if Patricia is doing it. I saw her here. But it's only one person who takes care of all of Spanish 1.
Yeah.
Not the
Which is
individual
great.
class teacher. Yeah.
yeah.
I
The
am
faculty can organize it however they like. Yeah.
Right. That's how we do it. Yeah. So it's easier.
But Joyce, you mentioned level 1 and 2, but I remember doing it for level 3 like last year or the year before.
It should only be level 1 and 2. We took away the level 3s and 4s because our classes were not filling up. Basically,
know.
that was the reason.
Well, I was not aware of that.
Oh, yeah, no, only levels 1 and 2.
Well, that makes sense because we know that French 3 always needs,
Students.
so
Yeah.
I was surprised that in a way, but nobody, I didn't know.
Right, no, it's supposedly it's supposed to be only levels 1 and 2.
Okay, well,
Well,
Yeah,
our
it
price
is.
they didn't say
It is.
anything. But Diane, the other problem is this is not specified anywhere in the catalog very clearly.
Well, we're going to.
That's the
This is-
transparency you're
This is
talking
part of
about.
this process that I have to
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah.
This is part of the whole credit for prior learning, is making it transparent and
Mhm.
centralized and clear. So we'll get there. It's just gonna take.
Yeah, and
Now
I
I'm in the
remember.
curriculum chair again. I'm gonna be pulled in so many directions.
Mhm.
It's gonna take me, well, it always takes us a little while around here. It's a big school to get these
Right.
kinds of things done. Jim, I see your thing, UC Berkeley. I know. Yeah, so they have to retake it. I taught 1 year back in the Bay Area at a private high school, never do it again. And it was AP Econ, and it was such a drag. And so, I have to do more, and I have to do more in an AP class than I do in my college class. So it's you're teaching to the test. And then all these students said, oh, we're not taking the exam because they're all going to private universities that don't take it, the credit. They just wanted the AP on their transcript, but they didn't need to go take the exam because it didn't count.
Yeah,
Which is kind of a joke.
AP is not, with my kids are in their 30s now, but they both, when they went to high school and then working at FPU and so on, and they went to college, my daughter did all the APs because she just was a glutton for the punishment. My son, I told him, don't do it if you don't want to. He had a great GPA, but he was a nervous wreck all the time. So I said, well, then don't take AP. I said, because colleges, it's touted more in the high schools than it is in the colleges.
Yeah,
The colleges
right.
are kinda,
Yeah, I
no. So
I'm sure I'm not shocking anyone, but the AP, the college, what is the name of their main? It's a huge lobbying group. Let's just put it that way.
well,
Huge lobby in Sacramento that
yeah.
makes sure that.
Yeah, I think it was back to school night at Bullard years ago, and my daughters had a teacher who told one of my daughters, I heard her tell one of my daughter's friends in the room who wanted to go to Stanford that, well, you should drop the theater and the dance and take more AP if you want to get into Stanford. And I wanted to grab her and say, no, Stanford will, if you don't have the theater and the dance, Stanford is not going to accept you. You need extracurricular too. Drop some
Oh,
AP.
yeah.
And I told my daughter later, tell your friend.
Yeah. Dual enrollment. Yeah, I agree. I'm a slow convert to dual enrollment. But at least it's minimum quals teaching the course, right? Because with AP, there are no economists teaching AP in the high schools. There might be a few, but it's mostly just social science, single subject credit or whatever. I don't know. But they're not like we are. They don't have that dedicated. So that bugs me all the time too. So yeah, dual enrollment is better.
When I took business law back in the Stone Age in high school for one semester, the JV baseball coach taught it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just, and then yet they get college credit per class. That's, yeah. Anyway, any other questions on what we're trying to do? I got some CTE folk here who can think about some industry search. Charlie's here, I see. In the industry search, I will, well, you can always come to me with stuff, but eventually I'm probably gonna have to do another kind of like mass email poll, like with the CTE folk to see what there is out there. We've been kind of waiting. Fire tech is ready to go and give us a crosswalk and all. There's a crosswalk for fire tech already built by the state of California through their agencies. But we've been waiting to make sure that they can get on the transcript. And that's a district thing, A&R, because our transcripts come from the district. So we think what Myrna said last semester is that they should be ready to go, that we can transcript it. Then we can start offering these new things. Anything else? Any ideas? Because I've got a lot of counseling folk in here, which is so helpful to me.
Diane, I'm wondering, have you explored at all utilizing either, I don't know, just like some classified support or adjunct instructor hours or any kind of grants that we have that could support at least getting a system in place? I know most grant funding is for like additional things that we don't normally do, but I don't know, it just seems like they're.
Oh, I have release time. That's
Well, that's why it seems like there needs to be some dedicated focus to get something in place that then we can keep doing.
Well, yeah, the legwork is a couple of us, you know, pulling all this information together.
Mhm.
And that's what we're doing. So I already got release time on that. So that's the money. We don't need any money yet for anything. I think I'm just going to keep information on Excel at this point, as far as what we're offering for credit for prior learning. If we needed another system, to buy more software or something, I don't know. And I'm using some of Julie's time, and I was using a lot of David Shoemaker's time, but now he's gone to read Lee. So I'm really good. And Kalisha, use a lot of her time too. There was kind of me and Julie, there was kind of the 4 or 5 of us that would do things. And then we would connect with our larger work group a couple times a semester to update. So that's how we were kind of doing it. It's Kalisha, David, Julie, and I would think and figure, okay, what can we do now? And then try to move a little forward. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. It needs to be institutionalized.
Right.
It does. And boy, around here, getting new things institutionalized is so hard. That's why I want the CPL counselor, because Julie and I both feel this isn't going to be a whole lot of hours once the system, how many students are going to be coming to this counselor with this paperwork? How many? I don't, all that person needs to do is if it's like, I don't have all the processes envisioned, but if it's like a military issue, joint transcripts, maybe that gets routed to Veterans Center counselor and us right now, right? Maybe, it's just someone to coordinate where the forms and the student needs to go. Someone brings in a new certificate, this person can say, oh, okay, we don't have this in our database, so I'm going to send it to so-and-so and see what they think about it. We got to have the faculty review it and see what they think about it. So yeah. And that's what Palomar, they've got a dedicated coordinator that is getting paid for that. Yeah. I hear you. Police, did I see chat questions about police? They might, and I wouldn't know, so we will be asking them. There might be something for police. If there's for fire, you'd think there might be, but I need to get them involved. I
have a
Any-
question, Diane.
yeah. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, thank you for this information. This is really great. Looking forward to seeing these come through. Just curious if you have any idea, like when we might start seeing these classes coming through on transcripts?
Seeing new credits.
Yeah, like when we might actually start seeing students that have these classes already on their transcript, just so counselors can kind of prepare, like, how is that course going to be accepted and all of that? Just curious when that might start.
Well, we already have, right, so the new ones, we already have transcription for external exams, right? And credit by exam already has a process to be transcribed. And there is a process in place for those military credits, right? For the PE.
Right.
So the only two new codes we need and ways to do it was the industry certifications and the learning portfolios. Like, how are they going to be shown on the transcript?
Right.
And I know the district A&R worked on that last year. The codes were available at the chancellor's office last year, and I know they worked on it. And so I just need to connect with Myrna again to see where we're at, or with Robin Torres. But it's like, okay, are we ready to go? Because I think we were going to use Fire as our first guinea pig, because he's got certificates already cross-listed through their agencies, and just start having students awarded. As far as my process of the initial form to a counselor, I'm hoping this year I get that process going. I got to find out who to ask permission. Since we're not going to really have a titled position called CPL counselor, can I call somebody a CPL counselor and let, like Julie wants to do it, and let her be it for now? I don't. I'm going to ask permission from her bosses, I think.
Probably George, our director.
Yeah, I heard I started an email to George and Kurt.
Yes, he's our new dean.
Yeah, I was going to email both of them and just kind of say, this is what we've been doing. Can we still do it? But yeah, I'd like to get an intake form. We haven't really, we talked about it all last year. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how to do forms except if it's on Word. And I know there's better ways to do things than Word. So that's not my area of expertise. I want to make an intake form, like I said, that has these opportunities on there.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions or ideas?
Hey, Diane, I have a quick question. This is Natalie from College Relations.
Yes.
As we're seeing new students, if they are interested in CLP, is there a contact list that we might be have access to, or who will be a good reference person that we can send the students to for this CLP?
CPL, well, all we have established so far is what we've always had, and that's our external exams and our credit by exam. So, but if you feel like you're getting more questions, send them to me, and I will. Well, that's not a process that's there. It's going to eventually have to go through A&R or, well, counselors who are here, you can tell me, do you guys also have these forms for like credit by exam available that you give to students, or is it just A&R?
Our typical process right now for credit by exam is if the student expresses interest, we would send them to the faculty member.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's, unless another counselor in here has a different process, that's usually what I've done, is we start with the faculty member and explain to them that they would be working with the faculty member to decide if they could do a final exam. And then that student would also work with A&R on like registering for the course and paying the fee and all that.
Right. So yeah, that makes sense. So you guys send them to the faculty. So the faculty who do these CBEs, which has been a lot of foreign languages and I think some applied tech, right? They do them regularly. They know what
language is the one I have had most frequently.
Well, oh, I'm sorry. What was it?
Foreign languages.
Yeah, foreign languages. So there's a few people on campus who've done these regularly, and the rest of us are like, we don't know exactly how it gets done.
Right.
So that's what I want to make that process a little clearer. But there is no form. There is a form. But it's not coming from you. It must be coming from A&R.
Yeah, I assume it's with A&R because
Okay.
really that's our first step is to have them talk to the faculty to see if it's even going to be something
Which is what I
they
want.
want to proceed with. Yeah.
Good. That's what I want. But what if the student shows up at A&R and says, hey, I want to test out of this? Then what do?
I believe they still have to talk to the faculty.
Okay.
Not positive, but that's
Yeah.
what we've been told.
Okay, good. I like that. And so what I would like is a student to express interest and it goes to the CPL council.
Right.
And they say,
And
go
that
talk to the
makes sense.
faculty.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because then that person would know all of the options that are available and could probably figure out which one the student might kind of best fall under.
Right. Right. I think that's what we need. Yeah. So one dedicated person who knows where to send people, where to send forms and all that.
Right.
Cool. Okay. Last session had questions about, which comes up a bit. Is there a limit to how many units a student can use for credit for prior learning? And there really shouldn't be, except we have 12 units in residency for degrees. Certificates, there are some certificates that aren't even 12 units, so we can't do that for certificates. But for degrees, it's in our AR, it's Title V actually. They have to have 12 units in residency. So face-to-face or online with our people, our college. So Palomar's view, and I would kind of agree, is there shouldn't be a limit beyond that. It's very unlikely someone's going to walk in with all these different types of credit for prior learning, right? And gain a degree minus the 12 units. Because there's a lot of GE in there, and we don't have, courses like mine. The only options I really have is external exams and credit by exam, right? The students aren't going to be testing out of everything. I don't know if you guys have any ideas on that, but that is something I need to talk with the district about and make sure. I think the AR is silent on it. And so that means if it's silent, then there is not a limit to the units, except for the 12 in residency for a degree.
The only time I can see an issue maybe coming up is, or not, sorry, not the only time, but what I can think of is if we're having a student that's coming from another institution, here with GE credits already completed, and then they're looking to get some additional credits from their prior learning, which
Right.
then we would have to hold them to the 12 units. So they would have to take some additional courses.
Right. They'd have to take some courses, yeah. So that'll be rare, probably.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen is either they took the class a really long time ago and they don't want to retake it, which in all reality, then they probably, I'm talking like 20 years, so then they might explore the option, but probably not take the exam, like you said. They often don't end up wanting to take it. Or they've worked in a certain field for a certain amount of time and they think they might be competent to do that kind of exam. But again, it is a rarer case than a common.
Right. And that's why we like to talk to the faculties. Faculty say, this is what this is going to entail.
Right.
And I think most students, like I've never had anybody, there wouldn't be any, the only place it could be is a foreign student. Those transcripts are hard to get translated and equivalent. And maybe a student from another country feels they have the knowledge in one of our academic disciplines and can test out. But our students coming out of high school cannot, are not going to be able to test out of, unless they had AP Econ, but they didn't take the exam. They didn't take the AP Econ exam. So they think they might be able to. I think that was the student that talked to Aaron years and years ago, is they took AP, didn't take the exam, but took the class. He felt he could test out and then changed, after talking to faculty, changed his mind about testing out.
Does it cost the students money? Do they have to enroll in the class?
Good question. So that's another district thing I need to approach. Currently in the AR, for credit by exam, there is, now the four colleges cannot agree, this happens a lot, on what we're charging students. Does anyone know? It either has to be a set fee or the per unit enrollment fee. And I think we charge the per unit, like the 3-unit class, we charge them 3 units. Palomar said at the Curriculum Institute, they're like, you all should consider not charging anything. They don't charge anything. It's not equitable. Why are you charging? So I need to bring that up. We do pay faculty for credit by exam, and we're going to have to for portfolio because they have to spend time assessing the work, right? So we create sections in the, by the Office of Instruction creates a section. So, and also so the student gets a grade that's transcripted. That's going to have to be similar for the, when we get to the learning portfolio stuff. But yeah, I need to talk to them. So right now we don't have any learning portfolios, and we're not going to, I don't think, for a while, but right now for credit by exam, yes, they do pay a fee. And that's something we need to consider as a district if we want to keep doing that. I've been working with the district for quite a while, honestly, and the ECPC, honestly, I think the answer immediately is going to be, well, yeah, we need to charge. We got to pay the faculty, but you know, there's other considerations in today's age about whether we should be. The other things we don't, industry certs, external exams, military joint johansson, all that will not have a fee because that's not really, students not really getting graded on anything new, right? This is just equivalent course to course. Anything else you have for me? No? Okay. Well, let me know if anybody's interested in joining. I got to reconvene this bigger little work group. It's not super big, but to start moving forward more on this. If any of you are interested in joining that, let me know. Send me an email. I guess that's all then. Time for lunch.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll see you
Thank you
around.
very much.
Sure.